Hey everybody, this is my custom Lego Overwatch Moc of Orisa, who happens to be one of my favorite characters in the game. I like the design, I like the character, I like the gameplay. I mean, too bad she's not in the best state right now, and for those of you who don't play Overwatch, I'll just say that there are good tanks. And then there's Orisa. And what might not be readily apparent here is that despite having a very unique character design, Orisa is very similar to all the other Overwatch tanks are now, in the fact that you pretty much explode instantly at all times. But Orisa does have a dog, and that's amazing. So for the figure, quote unquote, I really wanted to strike the perfect balance between minifigure scale and level of detail, which is pretty much a rule that I try to go through for all of my mocks, where as the level of detail goes up, it often has to get bigger, the actual Lego model, because Lego pieces are only so small, and you have to work with what you have, obviously. And fortunately for me, the size of Orisa in-game is very large, so I was able to mess around with a lot of different detail, because I was able to make the figure quite big in comparison to minifigures. Like for instance, I have a poster on my wall, and on this poster you can very easily see who is really, really short, and who's a behemoth. And Orisa, fortunately for me, was one of the behemoths, so I could mess around with a pretty big scale. But Orisa is taller than Winston in-game, just by a little bit, and you can see right here that she is just a little bit taller than the Winston Big Fig. So I was kind of able to use the scaling of that addition of minifigures, as you can see with McCree right here, to kind of gauge the base scale of Orisa. And originally I thought it was kind of big, but now actually looking at like everything in scale with the other Lego stuff, I think it looks pretty spot on. So the build itself started off with me just trying to use a variety of techniques and figuring out how I'm going to be able to get things like the bongos on the back and the legs to work. And I just ended up making like a few different iterations of the gun, for example, and different things. And eventually it all came together to this. So let's move on to a different segment. So the articulation of this figure is not particularly poor, but it's not particularly good either. It's kind of a pretty neat balance. Because when I set out to do this, unlike my original Bastion video and the Bastion Moc of old, which that was like 5 years ago at this point, I wanted to have the least amount of stud articulation as possible. And I wanted to rely more on hinges. And what that means is I want more such as like this hinge right here that are actually hinged onto something that aren't easily able to fall off, and less of a stud articulation like this, which are connected by studs. Sometimes stud articulation is necessary, I mean, at least at my skill level, but I wanted to kind of rely on that the least amount of times possible. So to start off here, we're going to take a look at the side. The arms can go up and down. You can move the arms up and down like that. These are loose right now because this is how like the little like L hinge works, is that you can have them loose like that, but if you pull them out a little, it gets thicker at the very end, so you're able to have actually like that also happens. So yeah, if you pull it out far enough like that, you're able to actually strike a pose, and you're able to just like position the thing how you want and really just go to town if it doesn't break off like that. So yeah, when you pull it out, you're able to pull it up and down, and you're able to kind of strike more poses than it was if it was in there and then kind of just flying around. But the good news about this model is that when it's actually inside, when you fold this back, it kind of gets caught with this stud right here on the leg. So you're kind of able to have it in there and cover up a lot more of the hinge. And you're also able to have it, you know, be able to be posed pretty well without it just falling to the ground. So that's cool. The head of the figure right here can turn sideways just a little bit. Can't do much because of the bongos in the back, but hey, I did what I could. Both of the arms can move with stud articulation, or at the elbow joints I should say. They can move up and down. Again, stud articulation isn't the best, and you can kind of see its faults there as it was trying to come off the hinge. But those are posable. This is not this is not a very durable model, if you can tell by now. It's not going to be meant for like, you know, heavy rigorous playing, you know. Being able to withstand rigorous play isn't a really problem for me because I'm just a nerd who builds things to put them on a shelf. So it's just going to be living the shelf life totally free of harm. Of course, if you have something like this squirrel that I recently got that can go onto shelves, that can be a bit of a problem, but that's a subject for another time. So working my way down to the legs, which you can actually take the arms completely off. So I can take a look first at some of the interior build, and you can kind of see how it was constructed a little bit. It looks very weird when it's, you know, not all covered up. but that's just kind of the general workings of it. It's kind of how it came together. I didn't plan it, it just gradually builds out. You know, you start usually with this, at least for me, I start off with one thing like the legs, then I start off with like the arms separate, and then the torso, and then I kind of figure out how it comes all together. And that's kind of how I ended up with this. So these go back for the bongos on the back, and then we can take a look at the legs. So the legs for me is my favorite part of this entire build, because for someone who kind of struggles with figuring out articulation and how I'm going to do stuff without just using studs, I really enjoy how this all came together. It just kind of came together piece by piece. I didn't kind of find any references for this stuff. I just genuinely said like, oh hey, this hinge kind of works with this hinge. And I first built this, this base thing right here, and then you can kind of see that these slopes cover up the front, and this covers up the hinge joint right there with the rod going through it. And then you kind of just have this system here. They don't fall off. It's like one of the sturdiest parts of this entire build, which again isn't saying a lot, but it is part of it. And it's just, I generally really like it because you can pose the front legs however you want. They can be independently moved. You can pose these forward if you want. I don't think you would really need that. They can't go back too far, but that's kind of just a sacrifice I needed to make at this scale and this skill level. But yeah, you can pose it kind of really great because you can have these back legs kind of support the whole thing with the weight on it. So you can have her like posed up in the air. And you can kind of have most of the support be on the back legs because the bongos add a lot of counterweight to the back. So you're able to kind of just put that down there. And the bongos add a lot of counterweight to the back, so you're kind of just able to put it there, and it looks pretty nice. I'm not gonna lie, I really enjoy how the legs came together. And a bit of hidden articulation is that these legs right here, since they're connected to studs, can actually move left or right. So you can kind of pose both the legs right, and you can have her like moving to one side or another. Maybe she's, you know, body slamming a Retta Lucio into the next galaxy. You know, you can do something like that. And I can see that you can kind of pose the back legs so that she can be like running or doing something fun like that. You can pose this a little forward and do something like that. It's just fun. I like it. So that, in conclusion, was my Lego Overwatch Orisa. I can't wait to do this again in a few months, hopefully, when the Overwatch 2 Orisa model is revealed and I have to do this all over again. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one. It was really fun to make. I definitely enjoyed the challenges of this one, and I honestly really like how it looks. I'm not one to brag, but I do really enjoy this one. I'm working on a few new things. I did like a few daily projects that I'm waiting for a few parts to come in that could be like fun one-off videos. And overall, I'm just trying to make things better quality-wise. I got new studio lights, I got a new tripod, I even got a new phone that can record in 4K. I'm not doing that because I don't want to destroy my phone's storage, but it should look better, and I hope it does come across as a little better in quality. So, any feedback's appreciated. Keep building, stay creative, and I hope to see you in the next one.